Well, that game could have gone better. Could have gone worse as well, though. We're going to talk about today's game against the St. Louis Blues, but first we have to talk about the loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's all coming up today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
Locked On Bllue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, coming to you from California once again. You can find my Twitter information at the bottom of the screen here. If you're not watching, it is _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFYSTER. The podcast is LO_Blue Jackets. I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, and we are also over on YouTube. So, hopefully you are tuning in on this wonderful Saturday afternoon and you are in a better mood now than you were last night, because I know I was feeling pretty annoyed after that game. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before, because BetOnline is where the game starts. And where this podcast is going to start is with, we've got to talk about that loss, I guess. It all started so well, is the thing. I made a comment on Twitter about how Johnny Gaudreau, was going to be the first person to make the cannon go off, because I think that would be really funny, considering the long history that he has of being terrified of the cannon. And I was right. Literally, like a minute in, 2.5 minutes into the first period, Johnny Gaudreau scores. Beautiful pass from Justin Danforth. Was it on purpose? Who knows? But I like that a lot. I didn't hate that top line, frankly. We talked in yesterday's episode about how you replace Patrick Laine, and you don't replace Patrick Laine with Justin Danforth. Like that's just not how it works. But if they can manage to keep that line together, then I don't hate it at all. I think Danforth plays a really fun style. It's not top line hockey, but it might be just good enough to keep Gaudreau afloat. Unfortunately, the thing about Danforth is he plays a very similar style to Boone Jenner, and you really only need one Boone Jenner type player on a line. So I still think that I would like them to try Cheetah on that top line. He's a scorer. He's looked good. He hasn't scored yet in the regular season, but he's had a couple of good looks, I think. And I feel like his game is more Line-A-esque. You know what I mean. I think just Danforth is acceptable, and I would rather, if they were going to stick with Danforth for the entire time that Line is out, like I would prefer that to a rotating door of other wingers, because like, especially with Gaudreau being new to the team, like, and I think this is kind of partially why Laine's first season with the Blue Jackets was so rough, is he kind of just had a rotating cast of people to play with because the team was bad, and he didn't really find chemistry with anyone except, like, I think Roslovic and Bjorkstrand were, I think, probably his most consistent line mates, and I really liked that line. But I think we're going to see a little bit of the same thing with Gaudreau. I mean, scoring his first goal, opening the season at Nationwide is really great, but I think I want to give them more than one game before I'm ready to set the jury out on, hey, what do we think of Gaudreau, Jenner, Danforth? I like it fine so far. Hopefully they keep it up. Hopefully we'll see that line again tonight in St. Louis. We're going to talk about that game in a minute. But as it stands, don't hate it. Making the best of a bad situation. Not the player I would have chosen, but it seems to be working out fine for the time being. And the Blue Jackets are up 1-0, and then it all kind of goes poorly for the rest of that period. Corey Perry scores a very Corey Perry-like goal. That one is a deflection. Not much that Tarasov could do about it. Frustrating, sure, but it is what it is. followed up Steven Stamkos. I believe actually that's Adam Boquist's goal. It went off of his, like, the inside of his skate. Again, I thought Tarasov had a good game. It sounds stupid to say considering he allowed 5 goals, but the first goal was a deflection. The second goal went off his own player. The third goal also went off his own. No, the third goal was Ross Colton, which was a legitimate, great goal. That was a fantastic shot from Ross Colton. Just poor defensive coverage. The story of this game. The fourth goal was a deflection, and then the fifth goal was just kind of the dagger. Really great to see Gus Nyquist score, though. He tied the game at 2. So it was 1-0 Bllue Jackets, and then 1-1, and then 2-1 Lightning, and then Gus Nyquist tied it up, his first of the season. Just a really great shot. I always forget that Gus Nyquist scores goals, which sounds really silly, but I always think of him as kind of a utility player. And then I realized, no, this guy's still pretty good. Like, in terms of veterans on this team, he's definitely up there. I think him and Voracek are definitely up there. Kent Johnson gets his first point of the season, and surprisingly, I say surprisingly, Eric Branson as well got his first point of the season. I got a comment on YouTube about how I was just making Gabranson I was just going to make Gabranson the scapegoat, and how I didn't say anything about Andrew Peeke, even though he was terrible in the opening game on Wednesday. Frankly, I didn't notice Andrew Peeke being all that bad. Yeah, he was on the ice for all of the goals, but I thought that it is what it is. I thought, frankly, I didn't think anyone on the defense was very good in the home opener, and I kind of have the same opinion in this game. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, we've got to talk about BetOnline, because they've got you covered this season for all the props, odds, and lines that you could ever imagine. Football betting season is well into play right now, and you can find player development, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth articles, and analysis on every single NFL game. They remain your continued source for all your sports wagering information, live betting, and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. If you want to put some money on Johnny Gaudreau scoring another 40 goals this season, then I think that's a pretty safe bet, honestly. And that is what I would put my money on. And to do that, I go to betonline.net on my laptop or my mobile device to learn more about the trends and action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. So we have to talk about the defense in this game, because it was pretty poor all round. I don't really know that I can pick out anyone that had a decent game, frankly. In terms of, I mean, I don't like plus minus as a thing, but Andrew Peeke was -2. Gavrikov was -1. Werenski was +1. Werenski gets to stay. Jake Bean was -1. I thought Jake Bean had a very poor game. Jake Bean really struggled out there, and I don't know if it's that he played most of the season on the right side and he's getting used to being on the left side again. But I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe sits in favor of Blankenberg tonight. I think, yeah, that the bottom 4 was just very poor, I thought. Werenski was good. I have no problems with Werenski's game. Adam Boquist, I thought, was fine beyond that one own goal. But the bottom 4, I thought, was just terrible. Branson was -2. Again, plus minus is kind of a stat that I don't typically like to pull out, but sometimes when you want to take a quick look at general stats, and then, you know, the way the game kind of the flow was, I think plus minus helps, and then you go and you look deeper into that. But yeah, just very poor defensively for basically everyone. Johnny Gaudreau was a +1 on the night, but most importantly, I want to point out he had 5 shots on goal. He appears to be leading by example. Boone Jenner also had 3 shots on goal. So did Gus Nyquist and Jake Voracek. So the guys that you want to see getting chances are getting their chances. They just need to put the puck in the net. Tarasov did kind of, I didn't think he was as good as he was on Wednesday against the Hurricanes, but I think that makes sense. I think Tampa's a much more dangerous team. 5 goals on 39 shots, which, I mean, if you're going to let your rookie goalie have that many shots against, like, especially, what the shot differential was 39-28. So they outshot the Blue Jackets by 11, um, and outscored them by 3. It's, I don't know what you want from your goalie in that way. Like, I don't know how you can look at this and be like, yeah, the goalie needs to be better. Like, yeah, does Tarasov need to be better? Probably. But like I kind of said in the wrap up, the first goal was a deflection, the second goal was an own goal, third goal legitimate, fourth goal deflection, no, fourth goal own goal, fifth goal deflection. Um, just a really tough night for Tarasov, and the defense really didn't help him out in any way. Other things that didn't really help out in any way. The power play continues to be haunted by ghosts. I think that's genuinely. I think that's again a chemistry thing. I think Line being out, they've had to shuffle some things around. Obviously, having Line on the power play helps massively because he's got that shot. But going 0 for 4 is they need to be better on the power play. The power play has been bad for many seasons now, and I don't know what they need to do to fix it. Maybe genuinely the power play might be cursed. One thing I do want to point out, which is a truly bonkers stat, is that they won 71.4% of the faceoffs. Yeah, like that's I saw that and was like, no, that can't be right. Am I reading that wrong? No, they sure did win all of those faceoffs. After slating them on Wednesday's game, for I think Cole Sillinger was at 20%, and everyone else was at 30 except for Boone Jenner, who had 55. Last night, Cole Sillinger had 55% of his faceoffs won. Boone Jenner won 80% of his faceoffs. Like, I think Boone Jenner had a phenomenal game, which is really unfortunate that it didn't, turn out that way. But it is what it is. 81% of the faceoffs is just a really great number. Jack Rostovic as well impressed, 61.5. And Sean Corelli was at 75%. So I think something else that helped the faceoffs there is that it looks like all of the faceoffs were taken by centers. It doesn't look like anyone was kicked out of the dot. So only those 4 guys took faceoffs all night, and so I think that probably helped. But yeah, just a really good night in the dot for the Blue Jackets, which is really, really one of the only good things out of that. I'm going to finish off this segment. We're going to do Cannonball of the game. Again, not a lot to choose from. Blue Jackets only scored 2 goals, and they were both pretty good ones. I think I'm going to have to go with Johnny Gaudreau, though. Cannonball of the game. First goal as a Blue Jacket in the regular first real goal that counts. Preseason goals, as fun as they are, do not count. First goal, first home goal as well, and opened the home season for the Blue Jackets. First guy to make the cannon go off in the regular season. So, and it was a nice goal as well. It was a very un-Johnny Gaudreau-like goal, I feel like, but great pass from Danforth, great finish, and it all was so hopeful when he scored. So I'm giving Cannonball of the game to Johnny Gaudreau, and hopefully it's the first of many. Now, in a minute, we are going to look ahead to St. Louis because they play the Blues tonight, and that game, it really could go one of 2 ways. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute on Locked on Blue Jackets. So let's talk St. Louis Blues because we're playing them tonight, and I genuinely cannot decide how this game is going to go. St. Louis has looked pretty good in the preseason. They haven't actually played a game yet in the regular season. This will be their first game. That's the home opener. They haven't played an away game. They haven't played a game in a week. I think their last game was literally last Saturday, which was a preseason win over the Chicago Blackhawks, which, I mean, sure. I feel like a farm team could probably beat the Chicago Blackhawks at this point. But they are probably well rested, ready to go, versus the Blue Jackets, who played last night and are extremely tired and had to fly out to St. Louis immediately. On the flip side, not playing for a week, they haven't got their legs underneath them. Like, I can never tell how much rest is too much rest. I think 2 days is probably ideal. Any longer than that, and I feel like you start losing the rhythm, I guess. And so it could be Could be interesting. What I think will happen is I think the Blue Jackets will probably come out strong in the first, and then will slowly decline as they get tired, and the Blues will slowly find their feet and get better. So it really becomes it's going to be a case of, can the Blue Jackets jump out to a lead in the first and hold it, or can they fend off the Blues in the third? I think one thing of note about this is I'm expecting Elvis Merzlikins to play tonight. Missed Wednesday's game due to injury, due to illness, excuse me, and having Tarasov play last night, I think, was a case of Elvis hasn't had the practice time. I would expect him to play tonight, get back in, make his season debut. I would expect him to be pretty good. The Blues have had I feel like the Blues had a weird offseason, in that they didn't really make any huge moves. They picked up a new backup goalie, but looking at their roster, like there's not really any big new names that I can see. But they do have a lot of good players, like Tarasenko, always a threat. Buchnevich is really kind of coming into his own. They've got Ryan O'Reilly. They just signed Torrey Krug long term. I'm a big Torrey Krug fan. I like Torrey Krug a lot. Goalies, again, it could go either way. Jordan Binnington is one of those goalies that is either Vezina level or AHL level, and there really is no in between for Binnington. And so we'll see which Binnington we get, I guess. Hopefully we get the second one, because I think the Blue Jackets could really use a win. Second night of a back-to-back. It's really hard to kind of compare the teams because, the Blue Jackets have such a small sample size, and the Blues haven't played yet. So, you can't look at, hey, this is what they were like the last time we faced. And I will say that the Blue Jackets beat them 7-0, and then they lost 4-2 in the first matchup, and then won 7-0 in the second preseason matchup that these two teams had. However, I don't really know that you can take anything from preseason. I feel like the second game especially was very lopsided. It was very much an AHL Blues squad versus most of the Blue Jackets veterans. So I would not go into this looking for that kind of game. So let's see. It's probably time to make a prediction. I think the Blue Jackets are going to win. I'm going to keep predicting that the Blue Jackets win until they actually win. I feel like that's the only thing I can do, because otherwise I'm going to predict that they lose, and then that makes me sad. And I won't even if they lose, I won't get the satisfaction of being right, because they'll still have lost a game and I will still be bummed about it. So I'm going to predict that the Blue Jackets win, because this is a Blue Jackets podcast, and I think the Blue Jackets are going to win 3-1. Why not? Who's going to score the first goal? I think the first goal is going to be scored by Boone Jenner. I have a gut feeling. I think it's honestly, I think, you know what? Let's go big. Let's go bold. Boone Jenner's going to score a power play goal to open this game. Or to open the scoring for the Blue Jackets. I would be surprised if the Blue Jackets score first. Like I said, they're motivated from the loss. They're ready to go. They played last night. The Blues probably need some time to get up to speed. So I'm expecting a big first period from the Blue Jackets, and hopefully they can kind of keep that going and hold off the Blues as they get their feet under them a little bit more. But that's my prediction. Boone Jenner on the power play to open the scoring for the Blue Jackets, and the Blue Jackets are going to win the game 3-1. I have 82 of these to do, so the law of averages states I've got to predict right eventually, right? But that's kind of all I've got for you today. I think we're going to try and record tomorrow. We'll talk about tonight's game and hopefully talk about the win. But that's all I've got for you today. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find this podcast at LO_Bllue Jackets. I'm going to do a mailbag tomorrow, I think, just to see how the first week of the season has gone. So if you have questions for that, or any questions in general, comments, criticism, etc., you can email lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. You can leave comments in the YouTube section. You can at me on Twitter. But yeah, send some questions in about this first week of the season, about your favorite player, about how I think the rest of the season is going to go, whatever. Send some questions in, and we'll have some fun. But Thank you for listening. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. I know being on the West Coast is weird because it's 9:30 in the morning for me as I'm recording this, and it's already, early afternoon for you guys. So it's probably not your first listen, but if it is, I appreciate you. Even if it's not, I appreciate you as well. Locked on Bllue Jackets is growing and growing. So, and that's all down to you guys. So I appreciate you. Hit subscribe on YouTube. It helps me out. It helps you out. Everybody wins. But until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.